Put down the hammer, and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show, yeah. Real estate info galore, so listen up, don't miss it. Hosted by the Savvy Landlord, oh.
All right, Savvy investors, man, I'm so excited. We're going all the way to Chi-Town, Chicago. One of my great friends that I have known for several years through Mr. Landlord Conference, back and forth, and she is a lady. I know I have a lot of gentlemen. This seems to be a male-dominated arena, but I've got to interview this gal. I've been trying to interview Linda Liberatore for a while. She's extremely busy traveling around the country. Almost saw her in Dallas, missed her in Dallas, but I was like, Linda, you've got to come to Oklahoma City to Investor Weekend. I believe that there's lady investors that you can help, and ultimately us rough around the edges, men that need to get paid and collect our rent from deadbeat tenants. Please welcome from Chicago, Linda Liberatore, 20 years involved in real estate, super passionate, over 10 years in tech training, and my favorite, released 2 books, one that's at our office that we read on a daily basis. So we got to learn a lot about you, Linda, where you came from. But let's just get the book out of the way, because I'm really intrigued about your style of this book. It's almost like a devotional. What gave you the, I guess, inspiration to write a book first, and then second, why this style of a book?
Wow. Hello, Stephen. That was really, really super. I am just as stoked to be here. That book, It's, I couldn't have asked you to, that's a great question, because that book was modeled after my own, I'll call it mornings, kind of a Joel Osteen, just a daily something to get me charged. I have a pretty strong morning routine between exercise, a little reading, a little thinking, So I just really applied it towards the landlords that I've been working with. And I really think that they're, pardon the term, I'm not exaggerating, kind of superheroes. They have a really tough job that most people from the outside just see it all as get-rich-quick scheme when you watch the late-night shows and all the other stuff. And the reality is landlording is hard work. And I think just a little something each morning just puts people on the right path to know they're doing the right thing. And some days it's a grind, and it's just not always going to be, the glory. So that's what got me started. And it was, okay. I will say this, it was a much harder task than I anticipated. I should have done 30 days.
I know you're overzealous, I would say, in a positive way, overachiever. And that's one of the things I love about you. What's the name of the book and that book? And where do we get it? I know you'll have some here at the Investor Weekend, but can I buy it online? Do you have a website? And what's the title of the book?
Absolutely. You can buy it at Amazon. It is Daily Inspirations to Achieve Your Real Estate Investment Goals. So it's specifically, as you just described, it's got a little quote at the top, and then just a short paragraph, just something to think about that day related to real estate. And then the newest book is the Keys to Managing Real Estate, My Landlord Helper, just to think in terms of the way you think, Stephen, a lot about the technology, about using a virtual assistant, about figuring out what are your daily tasks and how to, I'll say, get rid of some of them. Try to value your time more. Try to think like accountants and lawyers, hourly rate. What can I be doing that's going to bring more value to this real estate game?
Well, I'm excited to get my hands on that book. Technology is my passion because it just leverages our life and our time. We get to do the things that we want to do, and we get to employ people that they love and they're experts at what they do. Let's take a step back. How did you get this far? Where'd you grow up? Let's talk about you as a person. And then you're all into real estate. Like, I see you at conferences. I see you speaking, traveling, all helping landlords. How did that all come about?
Well, I'm a little bit, what do I say? I'm not a millennial anymore, so this gets a little too long. This is a little too long, so I'm going to shave it a little bit. How's that? I started with working with a real estate investor when I was having my children. I actually worked with 2. I worked with one that had a residential portfolio and one that had warehouses. And during that time, I had opportunities to be, I'll call it moonlighting, teaching technology training. At the time, teaching I'll call it Unix engineers back at some of the like Lucent Technologies, Motorola. I don't know. Again, you got to be a certain age to even recognize they were powerhouses back then. And so I was doing like desktop productivity softwares and stuff, as well as working with these investors. So they would come to me and look for what were technology solutions that they can implement. Fast forward, I went to a technology firm that was out of New York City, and they were working with collecting money for private schools, private schools across the country. So I ended up heading their development team, even though I never wrote a line of code. But it was kind of more the project management skills, the software from those skills. I had taught project management classes. It just, it kind of became a passion to figure out, and that's why I think we always spark, is to figure out, what technology could be used to simplify the day of a landlord. And, again, I'm a little bit beyond the millennial age group, and I would just say that I never would have guessed that we're in the most exciting time we are. That company, I should mention that company out of New York City was a web-based application, and that was back when you still bought a CD and put it in a computer, to load the software. So that's what sparked my interest. It was like, oh, that's really cool. And so we're in an age that if you're new to real estate investing, you just don't realize how you can do so many things much cheaper than making the big decisions you had to make once to invest in, $500, $1,000 software. Now you can buy something for a service, or quite frankly, free. There's so many free things they can use until their portfolio really takes off.
Yeah, absolutely. You have several brands. When I met you maybe 5-10 years ago, it's been forever. It seems like we're just like brother and sister here. You started My Landlord Helper. How did that go about? And I know there's a lot of clients that you serve in that capacity. What is that? Was that your first brand, or do you have several other brands? And tell us a little about your business.
Two. Yeah, we really just have two. We have one that's called Secure Pay One. I'd say that one was kind of the foundation, because that was built on the ACH payment system. And so, as you know, again, been around long enough, ACH payments, when we first started that, 8 to 10 years ago, nobody was, I'll say, willing to give out checking information as they are today. So we were kind of, I'll say, ahead of the curve in asking people to give that out. I mean, some people did, but a lot of tenants were reluctant, as well as their landlords, to, let's say, force any tenant into that situation. Where now, it's hard to find a millennial that's ever seen a check register, right?
Right.
So they're more than willing to give you whatever they want, And as a landlord, you better be more than willing to take it out as quick as you can. Because as we all know, if you don't balance a check register, it's just in the moment. So if they say they've got the money today, you definitely want to be debiting ASAP,
Yeah, absolutely.
So that
was your first brand?
Yeah.
That was your first brand, and that's still going on. And what's that service? So it's called SecurePay1.com, just SecurePayone.com. And what is that? And is it a service that's still functional now, I'm assuming?
Yes, that was a software, a web-based application that was custom built for us and the landlords. So if they're not yet, let's say, into a Buildium or a Rent Manager or Appfolio, if they haven't, let's say, moved into one of those products, this will get them in the market. Everything's web-based. They can log in. All notes are tracked, as well as we do automated ACH, or what we do is kind of what they call like through the tenant portal, or we make it as simple as a text or a call. They do an on-demand payment. So it's for the landlord. I didn't write the code. We hired somebody, but it's pretty cool. And it's a really nice streamlined interface. So the My Landlord Helper, actually, I'll call it wrapped around it, because what happened is, we all know when you start a business, even real estate, whichever it is, you end up, going to the demands of your client. So what happened is many of the clients then said, hey, can't you just take the calls for me too? Can't you help with the, legal notices? Can you fill in the lease renewals? And that's where the term My Landlord Helper and the whole virtual assistant thing kind of blossomed and took on I'll call it a life of its own.
Right, and that's called mylandlordhelper.com.
Correct.
Okay, and that's a service where usually you're servicing like a mom and pop or small landlord associate, individuals, or is it larger and it's just a day-to-day operation?
Yeah, I would say probably the biggest pain point, I think you could probably relate to this as well as your audience, is when you've grown to maybe 10, 15 units, 20 units. That seems to be at the point they kind of come to us because they want to grow more and they're feeling a lot of frustration. It's like kind of, you go up a little bit and then all of a sudden you get dragged down because you've got, 5 tenants not paying, or all of a sudden 5 people are leaving. And, I've had landlords come to me that, it's like, oh, I just leave the checks in the drawer and then I run over to, it's just, they're frustrated because they're not getting far enough ahead because they're so busy. They're trying to do a rehab. So there's like a pain point where you go, I need help. And, anybody that's ever tried to hire anybody could tell you how difficult that process is. Now multiply it times, you're trying to get somebody that's going to be able to understand the cycle of the month, what days are busy, what days aren't. You've got to train them. By the time you get everything just right, so it's very difficult. So they find that we are just so dependable. We have really, really awesome reviews and ratings because you give us something today. You tell us, I've got landlords, Stephen, that call me. Literally, they drive past the house and they go, oh, my gosh, they got stuff on the lawn. You got to call them right now, and I need a lease violation ASAP before the city writes me a fine. Those are, I can't look you in the eye, but I can look you in the eye and say those are at the post office that night. So we've made the call, we do the text. If we've got their email address, it goes out via email, and they have it in their hands, the next day, 2 business days, whatever the limitations is of the USPS.
So the cool thing is basically you guys are like a personal assistant that are educated in all realms of real estate and landlording and property management.
Absolutely. Yep. And of course, personal assistant virtually. So we take care of ones all over the country. Yep.
Right. And so, you have to scale that because you're one human being. You can't service everyone. And I noticed on your website, it says its packages start about $149 a month. So it's extremely affordable to get started. And then they can scale with you. And if they have a more demanding, like I have a lot of low income tenants, I'm assuming the packages can go up from there.
Yes. We traditionally really try to use the all-encompassing 1 fee per unit. We'll do everything. Because you're right, what we do end up getting is kind of moderate to low income, high needs, needy tenants that we really assist by taking a huge burden off of them where there might be multiple calls and, so it's really super, super helpful, as well as we have like a MultiTouch Point on the collection. We will mail out letters. We will do an email reminder. We'll do a text reminder. We'll do phone calls. So we're really working with you, Stephen, like we're in your office. It's not surprising to hear from us a couple times a day, a couple times a week, saying, where do we go? What people like is they remain in control. So it's still ultimately your decision. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So
You're representing that. You're representing that. I love the service personally. I know what you're doing because, anybody balks at that, just someone else to call besides myself. I have a whole property management company, but it's like, it sounds like you're giving that type of power without even being there and you care. That's another thing that I love about you and how you built this business with me in mind, not Van Callenberg, but just as real estate investors in mind, that they are busy, they are scatterbrained, they are not organized, they for sure don't want to call people, and they just want to do what they're good at is buying more property.
Yeah, so Stephen, the real example that's just like so true is if you think about if you can go out, let's say to an auction, and you can save $1,000 on the next house, and that's low, right? On the next house you bid, but you did your homework and you had the time to properly prepare and you made the best bid and you saved $1,000. I mean, there's no doubt where you're good. You know what I mean? And you have to recognize that skill and then say, so what's my payoff of, getting this toilet call or getting this, collection in a day sooner? You know what I mean? If I know I'm covered and I feel 100% comfortable that somebody's watching my back end, then I want to move forward on the front end. I need to acquire more properties because, there's a point they have to get to make it where they can leave their W-2 job. I mean, sometimes we get people that are still working full time, and other times they've just made that cut and they're really struggling to find the right person in the office, and then they realize that this is a really good solution. And we have, so many stories that we could share where we have one guy came to us with probably about 40 units. He now has like almost 160 or 80. He's in between there.
Wow.
And still relies on us. He now has someone in the office that signs the leases and meets the people. You know what I mean? And he's got a maintenance guy. I mean, we have another lady out of California. She's much smaller, but her investment property's in Georgia, and she has us, a leasing agent, and a maintenance guy. That's it. She has nobody in the office.
I mean, it's so funny that people don't see the value. Like, this just happened to me the other day. I was walking into the office, and there's another landlord that offices with us. Like, he's not a part of our organization.
Right.
He rents some of the offices in our building. And the interesting thing, he said, I really appreciate Liz, who's my general manager. She has so much wisdom. She can answer all these questions quickly. And so, like, there's an inexperienced landlord in my building. And, myself, I got 20 years experience. My property manager has 10 years experience. The power of answering those simple questions is worth $150 a month. Just so you can say, hey, it's like having a personal coach. How do I, is it legally right to do this? And you're going to know this answer. What advice would you give to landlords from all your wisdom and from, all these calls that you guys have calculated and the history? What's a common advice that you could give, a common dilemma or a situation? Tell us that.
Here's one I'm going to give you that I think that it would be a low-hanging fruit and that people don't think about. If they have someone, let's go to the late slow payments. If they have someone that they've worked with for years and they're late on their payment, and for some reason, let's assume, the good-hearted part of them wants to make that exception and not give the legal notice. And I really try to give them the advice that you're not hurting anybody by giving that legal notice. First off, you're kind of keeping with your timeline to make sure you don't know the real problem that they have. Let's just say whatever it is, you don't know how quickly they're going to get out of that problem. If they're the good tenant that you say they are and they're going to, let's say, give back to you by leaving without a problem, if they can't surmount this financial issue, then it should be a no-brainer. If they truly can get some type of charitable assistance, they need that legal notice. Nowadays, the charitable agencies are looking for that as a way to kind of weed out too many people coming to them. They're looking for them to prove they really are going to lose their place. So to me, it's no harm, no foul, and you should be able to do that in a good spirit, not in a mean-spirited thing. You should be able to deliver that in a nicely spirited way that, hey, this is what the law calls for. Hopefully you'll have it all rectified. No big deal.
Right.
When it's a really big landlord, there is a decision there about paying, let's say $50 a process server to give them out. But if all things are equal and you can get a way to get those done, nowadays we use all these different softwares. We use all those other softwares for our landlords. And we just produce those documents. It should definitely be like 1, 2, 3, and nobody's hurt by that process, and you go into it all as a win-win. If they pay, everybody's happy, but if they don't, you haven't lost a lot of valuable time.
I think it's very valuable. I think a lot of landlords cut corners on simple things like that, and I love what you said. that those charitable organizations need some sort of documentation, for their accounting purposes, and to test the authenticity of the need that they're trying to serve. I love that. I have a landlord that a friend of mine that knows you as well, Thomas Morgan, and he sends them to, there's charitable websites where they can apply and get assistance right there. Instead of being the bad landlord, you're coming across as the great landlord. Hey, I want you to stay. I want you to pay your rent. I have expenses as well, and maybe consider using these services to assist you in this downtime in your life. All right. So, absolutely. Linda, I'm excited. I'm going to see you within less than a week here. Give us some perspective or some your topics or your subjects, or what are the things that you're going to cover coming up at the Investor Weekend?
Well, I'm really, really excited. I'm so fortunate to come out there and see you again and be in front of your group. And I think one of the most important things we can do, or I can do, is share with them the different tips to hiring a virtual assistant. We're a little different, that we're kind of a full support, but they can put together bids, let's say, for just specific projects. Just get started, because what it helps them do is organize themselves into getting their own task list and then deciding what they can, I'll call it sub out. Where can you use some assistance?
Man, I'm excited. You're the only one doing virtual assistance, so I'm excited about that. That is, I love it. I have a course on it, and we need more tips. It's amazing. So many people want to do it, but they're scared or they're afraid they're going to lose money. And I know that you're going to bring the thunder, and you're the very first speaker on Saturday morning. So it's going to be pandemonium. Everybody will be so jazzed to see.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. I'm a morning person, as you know by the book. I'm honored to take that spot. That's great.
And folks, her book, 365 pages, wasn't easy to craft that many pages. How long did it take you to write the book?
Oh, my goodness, a long time. I always say it just feels like one of those matching games, at some point, and I'm all about, believe me, technology and the computer, but like at some point you're like, did I talk about that already on page 10? Oh, my Lord, that was the hardest part. It was like keeping it all straight. It was like, wow, why didn't I do 30 days?
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Linda, we're so just honored to have you in Oklahoma City, and I can't wait. And how can people get a hold of you prior? Like, you have websites and phone numbers. Yeah. Let's get all that information out now.
Sure. They can call my cell phone at any time. That's 847-436-9006. Or they could go to the website. Of course, we said SecurePay1, spelled it out, SecurePayone.com. And that's, our support staff is there for everybody. We got a great, great staff. And my email, I'll say, why don't we do the info, info at SecurePay1.com, SecurePayone.com. Or, as you said, my Landlord Helper. Either way, we're going to honor them no matter what.
And I'll have them in the show notes.
Mention your show.
Yeah. And then to get your book, her last name is Liberatore. It sounds easier, but it looks intimidating. It's Liberatore.
Yeah.
Linda, it's been a pleasure, and I can't wait to hang out with you soon enough.
Yep, my pleasure's mine. Yep, I'll be there early Friday in fact, so whatever I can do to help, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, can't wait. See you soon.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye.
Investor Weekend is not far off, with over 10 information sessions to increase your portfolio. Log on to www.investorweekend.com. Whether you are a seasoned investor or never purchased a property before, you don't want to miss the Investor Weekend. Join us for a powerful, knowledge-packed weekend with over 10 informational sessions that are bound to enlarge your real estate investments. You will hear from the best national and local real estate investors that will share practical and relevant experiences with you, the investor. There will be several networking sessions to connect with other like-minded people for potential funding, partnerships, and yes, hot deals. Go to www.investorweekend.com. Did you know we meet once a month for the Landlord Lunch Meeting? The third Wednesday of every month. Go to landlordlunch.com.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook and always be buying assets.
I got all my cash out. I owe $300,000 on it. I'm getting offers for over $500,000. And I probably won't.